Well, hello there. It's Linda Anderson here from Linda Lou Creates, and I'm so happy you joined me. I spotted this card on Pinterest. It actually wasn't made using these papers that I used. However, I really liked it. And the funny thing was, as soon as I created it, I'm like, I also see it a different way. So let me show you sort of the fun fold part of it where I cut off a little strip here off the side of the card. The strip that was cut off is actually used here for the sentiment. A little bit of designer series paper, and here is the card. A simple fun fold. Now, I just stepped it up a notch here by making it a fun flap card, I'm going to call it. And you notice that it's coming from this direction, and here is the flap then to create the card. So I'm going to show you how to create both of these cards. If you miss any of the measurements or supplies or anything like that, don't worry. I will have rather a tutorial PDF that you can copy down in the description of this video. So be sure and scoop that up. All right, let's start with this card. Either card, they both start off with a 5.5 by 8.5 piece. This one happens to be Highland Heather. Here at 4 1/4 is where I've scored it for the halfway point. Now, from here, I have trimmed off 7/8 of an inch. All right, so from that is where I get my card front. So I wanted to show you how it started and then what you did to get it to end up with that little bit cut off. All right. I also have a piece of white to go on the inside of the card, and this is the 4 by 5 1/4. I've already stamped a sentiment, and this comes from Snowflake Wishes. And I want to make sure that you're aware to have your sentiment off to the left a little bit so that when your card is closed, it doesn't show through. All right, but I can't let it go with just that, with just the sentiment. I'm going to have to add a little something. So I pulled one of the snowflakes out of that Snowflake Wishes set. I have some Pool Party ink here, and I'm going to do what's called stamping off. So I have it inked up, and I'm going to stamp it on some scrap paper first, then come to my card. And again, being kind of aware of the placement of my snowflake, again, I don't want it hanging off too far. So there it is. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and get that adhered to the inside. Let me just move this out of the way, and just let me get out some of my adhesive here. And we'll just go ahead and get this put in. So down it goes. Now the ink that I used to stamp the sentiment is Pacific Point. So just so you're aware of that. Now I have a piece of designer series paper. Actually I have two pieces here, but let me start with the one. This piece measures 3 inches by 5 1/4, and that is what's going to go on the front of the card. All right, so let me get that. Yeah, it's two-sided, and it's hard to pick sometimes which side of the paper that you want. So, all right, I like this watercolor look, so that's why I went with that. Now, again, let me show you here my Merry Christmas. That stamp comes from this stamp set here, the Celebration Tidings. And once again, I stamped it, the Merry Christmas, using Pacific Point ink. Now, like I said, this was that strip that I cut off here. Now, I did trim it down to 3 1/4, all right? And then made sure that I stamped it way off here to the left of it so that I have room to put then my scallop circle and the what I'm going to put on the inside here. So let me go ahead and get this adhered down. So let's get that with some adhesive on it. Now, I went about, about an inch up from the paper here to get the placement of this. I mean, that's definitely, you know, up to you. However you far up from the bottom you want to go. So mine's about an inch up here. So, all right, let me just kind of move this off to the side, because what I'm going to now do is just punch a piece again of this designer series paper. I think I failed to mention that this is called Snowflake Splendor. It is part of the suite that this stamp set comes in. And this you can find in the holiday mini catalog. I love this paper. I've had to order additional packs of it because I'm going through it so quickly. All right, I have a Pacific Point scallop circle. I used the layering circle dies to get that. Now I'm going to use a 2 1/4 inch circle punch and just punch out some of the paper. All right, it's kind of fun to be able to use your papers that way. So that will become sort of my focal point here. And again, you got to decide which design you want. But let me go ahead and get this adhered down. And now I'm going to put it onto my card. Now you could put it down straight, or you could put some dimensionals on it, which is what I'm going to do with this one. Now, again, you have to be careful with the dimensionals. You don't want to have the dimensionals or the adhesive to extend out over otherwise then you will adhere your card closed. So make sure that your adhesive, whether it's dimensionals or adhesive, is just on this portion here. So let me just go ahead and get my dimensionals on. Everyone knows I love my dimensionals. That's actually kind of not many for me in a case like this. All right, so I'm paying attention to where they are, and I would adhere it down. So now, as you can see, none of the dimensionals are poking out, so my card will not be closed then. So, all right, next, just a few little embellishments. These are the adhesive-backed snowflakes. Again, part of that Snowflake Splendor suite. Sometimes I gotta watch how I say it. And I'm just gonna pop some of those on. Oops, let me pick that one up. Put it. I try when I put these types of things on to just be random with them. Don't try and overthink it. Otherwise, you know, it would take too long. So I just want to put a couple here in the circle as well, and that's it. I'm done. So here is my fun fold card. Now I've stepped it up to the next level because I want to add this extra little flap to it. So here is the card that we're going to make next. All right. So let me, again, the card base is done the same way. So I have my 8 1/2, 5 1/2. I went ahead and I scored it at the 4 1/4. Then I cut off the 7/8 of an inch off the one side. Okay. Now here is that 7/8 of an inch, and I'm going to come back to this in a moment here to tell you what I did with that. All right. So here we go. Here is my card front with that cut off. And again, I have the same insides, the Whisper White, that I've stamped my sentiment and stamped off to do the snowflake. Now, I'm not going to put this down just yet, all right? I'm going to hold on to this for just a moment. Okay. This time, then, I have 2 Pacific Point scallop circles because I'm going to cut, or punch rather, 2 of the 2 1/4 inch circles out of my designer series paper, that Snowflake Splendor. So let me go ahead and punch out my 2 circles. I just thought I'd use some different a different design out of that paper pack. And I'm going to go ahead and adhere these down to those scallop circles. Okay. Now, I am going to point something out, that you could skip this step and only do one of the circles, but I'm going to explain here in just a moment why I'm doing two. All right, so again, I have the 3 by 5 1/4 inch piece again of some paper, pattern paper here, the Snowflake Splendor. I just have everything in my way here, don't I? And I'm just going to go ahead and get that put down. All right. So let me bring back, oops, my 7/8 of an inch piece here that I've cut off the side here. Now you'll see that it is slightly smaller. I did trim a little bit off, and you might have to. All right. There is a score line of 1.5 inches. Okay. So I scored that. That gave me then where I want to locate, or where I want to stamp rather, my sentiment. I want to be just over that side of the, on the long end, I guess, of the score line. All right, because this is what we're going to do. We're going to tuck this piece behind the white that's going to go on the inside. This will get adhered down now, and then this will be, here's that extra little flap. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. This is where, like I said, you might need to then just, you know, trim a little bit off on the end. There's no rhyme or reason to the amount. Just trim a little bit off. Okay, so let's go ahead, and you see how I flipped it over. Let me show you. So here's that 1.5 inch, and I flipped over, and that's where I put my adhesive. Now here again, it's going to be about 1 inch up. So let me see. And there, you know, that's not exact right there. You know, you can certainly put it where you want it. All right. So I have that adhered now to the inside. So let's go ahead and get this put down. I'm going to put a little extra adhesive over that. Now let me give you a little tip here. This is Whisper White that I have for the inside, but I used the thick for this one. I just felt like having that additional piece that's adhered to the back. I'm not going to see the bump from that with the thicker cardstock than I would if I was using the regular weight of Whisper White. All right, so my sentiment is covered, my flap is adhered, and I've trimmed it off a little bit here. Now, this is what I was saying, is this step you could skip. Now, I thought whenever I opened this up that I see that. I'm okay with that, but I also thought I might like to have it covered. So that's why I'm going to sandwich that in between these two scallop circles then. So that's why I had you do the cut out the 2 of each of the scallops and punched out of the designer series paper. Okay, now, you know, make sure you check, because the sentiment has to be very specific to fit into that space. So make sure you do that. And I'm just going to go ahead and put some of my adhesive right here on my flap. Let's get this in. All right. And now I'm going to put my adhesive on the back again of this now, really making sure. And now I'm just going to line up the scallops. Make sure that I have that my flap sandwiched in there, and I have this there lined up. So here we go. There's that flap. All right. So, except for adding some more embellishments, let's do that. again, these are those adhesive backed snowflakes. We've got this card done too. So that one went pretty quick. Whoops, I have one too many. All right, let me get that one down. Okay, I like to start with 3 and then decide if I want to go with, a couple more. So, and I think I will. I'm going to put them right in here, sneak them in here with the rest of the snowflakes. So, all right. I'm actually going to put one more. I know that makes it totally an even number then. It's 6, but I look at it as there's 3 and there's 3. So there's my odd number of embellishments. So here we go. Here is the double flap fun fold card. All right, or fun flap card, right? So let me bring these back in. So this was the sort of stepped up version of this card. All right. Hey, thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate you watching my videos. If you like them, please give them a thumbs up, and also consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. I'd really appreciate that. I have a blog. It's lindaloucreates.com, and from there you can sign up for my newsletter. Don't forget, click or look down at the bottom in the description and be able to get your free PDF tutorial on how to make these cards. It'll have all the supplies and all the measurements, pictures will all be included. So, hey, thanks again for joining me today, and I hope you get a chance to create. Bye now.